Happy Friday, TDD, live from New York with Jim Lentz.
Thanks, Ken, and welcome everybody. So I'm just going to go to GitHub here and make a new repository. And put it under our TDD Solidity. Check out this organization because we put all of our cool stuff there. So I'm going to call this maybe one day cooldown function. Okay, just make this node because I like to use package JSON and Truffle is node kind of MIT license. Okay, so we have a repository there. And I can then copy this, building out the Silly Squares site. By the way, if anyone wants to help out on that, I've just made a public repo, kind of like a website that connects, just uses Web3, calls out to that contract for the Silly Squares, and just like it has a balance of function. And you say, hey, how many Silly Squares do I own? And it returns you that balance. And so from that, we can do like exclusive content, you know, if the balance is greater than one, show some stuff. Otherwise, show a link to OpenSea, right, for them to go buy one. Okay, so I like to put stuff in this Git projects folder. So I'm going to clone this new thing here. Go into the folder. And there's nothing here really other than license and README file. So I'm going to do, this was another thing I learned about. I thought it was actually really funny. NPM init, you can do -- yes, and it will just like basically hit enter to everything. So I just do that and then I'm done, which is pretty cool, I think, because I would just do NPM init and keep hitting enter, and it's just funny. -- yes. So then I'm going to go to version 14 of Node because that's where I have like Truffle installed. Okay, so I have it there. And we can say Truffle init and just make a new little project here. So that's done. And we have a bunch of folders and files. So I open this in VS Code. By the way, it's October now. And I was just thinking that I'm getting kind of bored of this like default coloring. And one of my favorite themes for VS Code is this Hacktoberfest theme. So I'm going to set this. And so now, I mean, it doesn't look that different, honestly, but things are a little bit more orangey, I guess. Set color theme. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to say truffle create all, right? This creates the test file and another contract. And I'll call this Cooldowner. Okay, so Cooldowner will basically have a function. I know we want to make the test first, but just maybe thinking about it in like pseudocode. Let's say claim daily prize, maybe something like that. And this can be called by anyone, outside people. So it'll be external and can only be called once. And it's also like, do we want it to be called once per like 24 hours UTC time? Or is it like when you call it, then a 24-hour timer starts? But let's just look at how Crypto Zombies does this, because I'm kind of just copying off them, right? And so for people who don't know, this is like it's I don't know if you could even call it a game. It's just like a series of little tutorials of like how to think about Solidity and learning the syntax. And for some reason, the next button has like not been working for me. So I've just been coming up in the address bar, changing to the next page. But anyway, you can check the answer, show me the answer, and then they show you things. You paste it in here and you can hit victory. And so I have two different sections, right? This is lesson 11, chapter 12. So this is kind of like later in the development of the zombies. You make these zombies NFTs. And so this is the best part where zombies fight each other. Okay, and then so their test fails. And they're saying with create random zombie, they have sorry, this is the testing smart contracts. Okay, my bad. I probably should have explained this first. Because the testing part they have later and they show you how to like fast forward time for your tests. But here is just where they add this kind of cooldown. Well, all right, this isn't necessarily where they add the cooldown, but this is basically the last chapter of chapter 4. And so all of the code here, I guess after they have this one. So they want to make the code like this, and then it should be working, right? So you call attack, zombie feeding. So this feed and multiply. Okay, yeah, there's more functions here. So feed and multiply. Which requiring is ready. Okay, and we're requiring that ready time is less than now. So now is this kind of keyword in Solidity. That's the time of the block with this function execution. Okay. And then we have this trigger cooldown, right? So where's this called? Down here in the feed and multiply function at the end here. So we set the ready time to be now plus cooldown time. Okay. So cooldown time is somewhere else. I think that's just a like a constant. Oh, here, cooldown time 1 days, right? And that's exactly what we want. So we can even just take this and add it into our cooldowner. So we're just adding this variable to the contract, cooldown time 1 day. So you could even make this all caps if you wanted to, just to say, hey, this is a constant, but and even this trigger cooldown is ready, I think is a nice way of doing it. Okay, and maybe I should say, because I'm kind of gonna want this to be called by different users, right? So maybe like each user can claim their prize for the day. You know, it's like you come apple a day type of thing. That was even a different. Oh man, yeah, that was an idea I had for a project where it was apple a day, and each user can come and mint 1 apple each day. Right. So maybe this function. Well, I guess it's our claim daily prize function, right? This one doesn't even really need to take any arguments, and it doesn't, I guess, need to even return anything. So let's maybe just put this up here so we don't forget. And we can have, like they had here, a require statement, require that this is ready. And so I guess they're using this underscore at the beginning of internal functions, right? That's kind of a pattern you might see people do. Even this, they're putting underscore. I feel like that's kind of crazy, but I mean, not that crazy, but it's just overdoing it with the underscores, you know? Like, anyway. So I here sort of want to send in message.sender, right? Because we want to check if this user who's calling it has already been. And even there's, right, the other parameter you can put in require is like the message, error message kind of thing. Already claimed the prize today. Okay, so now you want this to be an address, right? And I could just call this maybe account, the account of the user. And so I'm thinking we can have a mapping of the address, the user address to a time. I guess this is just a uint. This is saying uint 32. I guess that will work. Am I? And I could call this maybe cooldown times or ready times, because this is a mapping that holds the ready time of every user in the app, basically. Okay, so in the is, well, right, so is ready would return true if now is later than the ready time, right? This basically means the block we're in now is after the ready time, meaning they're finished cooling down, and we should be good to run this function again. Okay. So my ready time, and then the account here is going to be the key, right? We want to check that this value then is less than now. Okay. And so then what is triggering cooldown going to do? It should set this ready time. So we're going to set this ready time equal to now plus our cooldown time. Okay. So when we claim the daily prize, just like they did in here, right? We'll do all these things. Yeah, I guess it's kind of not that great if we like maybe we can have prizes, right? Just so that we can do something here. So if we get past this require statement, then we can increment prizes. Okay, add a prize to their count here. And then call trigger cooldown so that we can't call this again until a day has passed. And I guess we're going to want to send message sender in here too, right? So that we have this here and then we can use it. Okay, this does not like now. It's saying use block.timestamp. And I guess they just thought this was confusing people too much, so they took it out. And it's very explicit now that it's the block.timestamp. Okay. Okay, so does this work? I don't know because we didn't write any tests, right? So let's think about this. And this is very not TDD, right? This is actually testing soon after development, which is TSAD. You know, sometimes it makes you sad, but sometimes it's not so bad. So, okay, so I like to just destructure this so it counts as an array, and we can say the first one is owner, then it's user one, user two, right? And this is just a JavaScript syntax of creating these variables from this array, right? The elements of that array. And then before each, right? So it's nice to just kind of set this up fresh for each test. So cooldowner is our contract here, cooldowner. So I can just move this up here and we just make a new one each time. And new, right? So I don't know why they even have that deployed. Maybe it's a little bit faster, but it gives you the instance of the same contract every time. So they're all like polluted with old junk when you're trying to do a new test, right? So I like to just do .new and yeah, right? It's fast enough. And so now we're going to want to use this thing later. So I'm going to say let here because cooldowner, we're going to want to reassign before every test to this new fresh instance of it. Okay. And let's just string public foo just to make sure things are working okay. it has a foo string. Oops. Okay, so then we want to make this async, right? Because everything we do basically returns a promise and we want to await that. And here, we just want to say cooldowner dot foo, and that's kind of a weird thing that in JavaScript, we can basically just grab our variables as a function. All right, so let me just say, I'll say foo value. Okay. And then we want to have our assertion here, right? So we're expecting foo value to equal bar, just this literal string bar. And if we say truffle test, it should recognize this .test.js file in our folder here. And it's saying we're using await here, but this is not in an async function. So we want to put async here. Okay, so then our tests are passing. That's all good. I think you can also say foo dot call or dot get, maybe it is. Yeah, dot call. Don't think dot get works. Yeah, dot get is not a function. So you can say dot call. This will call your function or call for the value of things. Or you could just straight up call it as if it was a function. Okay. So now we want to claim the daily prize, right? So let's just say, first, let's just check that the prize is 0, maybe, right? It starts a user, or just, it starts users with 0 prizes. Okay. I really should have the thing that just automatically makes it and describe blocks for you and adds the async, but I don't. Okay, so this is kind of interesting, right? So let's try to call, because we have a mapping here, prizes. But if I say dot prizes, right? And that's something that's okay to do. It's just, we're not really expecting this to pass, but we can just let the compiler and test runner tell us what it actually got. And this thing, it's not even a function, right? And that was the thing. Mappings and Solidity is a little bit weird. It's kind of like it doesn't really map nicely to JavaScript objects, even though that's kind of how you represent hash maps in JavaScript. It's just as an object, but also like these mappings and Solidity can be like pretty massive. And so returning that, like this is an interesting thing, right? If we say get all prizes, right? And we say returns mapping. I don't think I will like this. and we say return prizes. So expected. So does it want us to add this, that it's a mapping of these? Right, because it's expecting like a type here. And so let's say memory. Okay, so here, maybe it wants storage here. Data location must be memory or call data, but storage was given. Okay, so if we say call data, it doesn't like that. Nested mappings can only be parameters or return variables of internal or library functions. Mapping is only valid as storage because it contains an nested mapping, right? So if we do storage here, it doesn't like that. If we do memory here, it doesn't like that. So you can see, right? And I honestly don't think there is a way in Solidity to just return a mapping like this. So let's say, right, and probably a better way to do this is just say get prize for user, right, where it only returns one integer at a time. Obviously, you're not going to get everything. You're just going to get one integer at a time, but it's going to be a lot easier for the blockchain to give you that. And it's going to be a lot less data just going through. So, and then, so we say prizes. I guess maybe we could call this get my prizes. And this will just look at the message.sender. Okay, so it's saying we can add the view here. Okay, no squiggles, looks okay. So, right. So instead of just calling directly to these prizes, let's say cooldowner.get my prizes. And so it got a big number that's 0. And remember, this returns big numbers from Ethereum and from Solidity, smart contracts. So we can convert this by to number. I think it's just converts it to a regular JavaScript number. And then we can say expect owner price count to be 0. Okay, just the regular JavaScript number 0. And remember, we need these parentheses all the way out here, right? If we don't do this, then it's going to try to call this function. That's going to return a promise. Then it's going to try to call toNumber on the promise. It's going to get all confused and blow up, and it won't even get to this await, right? So we want to await this promise here. Wait, let me just run this. Yeah, so it's saying toNumber is not a function on this because this returned just a promise. Promises don't have toNumber. But once we await this promise, unwrap it into the big number, now we can call toNumber on that thing, okay? So we can also do our how we can add this like object. This is something that Truffle gives us, right? And because we made these other users up here, the default one is calling it from the owner, but we could say call it from user 1, call it from user 2, and this would be the user 2 count, the user 1 count, and these should all be 0 at the beginning, right? And remember, that's just how like Solidity works. It kind of gives you that default. There's no real like null or undefined. It just gives you sort of a default value, which for integers is 0. So these, and even it goes into the nested mapping. So this value at each key for each of the addresses of our users starts out as 0. Okay. So that's cool. Now I'll say maybe users can claim a prize. Okay. And this I'm pretty much gonna want to do as my, like, remember we have our like arrange, act, assert. Okay, so in this test, things get a little more complicated, right? This, we're just not even doing anything. We're just going right to the assert step, basically. I mean, we set up things in our before each, but all we do is create the contract, right? And that's fine, right? This test is basically just testing that things are in the correct state when everything gets first set up. Okay, and maybe as we build out some of these more complicated tests, you don't need these tests anymore. The thing is, like, if there is a problem in this early stuff, just in a setup, then it's nice to have this test fail first, just so that you can go look in here instead of having one massive test and you don't know why it's broken, right? So just something to think about. Okay, so in our assert here, we're going to want to get all the prizes. And I want these all to be 1 because we all got our prizes, claimed them, and everyone's happy. Okay. And now I'm just thinking we're going to need to call this, each of these 3 times, call this with each of our users here. And we don't need to 2-number this thing because it's not returning anything. So I guess we can get rid of these parentheses, right? We don't need them. Whoops. Okay, so then arrange. Do we need to do anything? Oh, wait, sorry. I did want to have these from, right? We do want to call this from each of our 3 users. Okay, so we should be able to call that. It's going to set these cooldowns, but because we're just calling it 1 time from each user, that's fine. So and did I forget to do async again? Yeah. Owner price count has already been declared. Okay, so this setting to a variable, really we just want to call this function and then I can get the price count later. Okay, so these, oh, man, these flies in buzzing around me. Okay. So all we want to do is call these functions. We don't care what it returns because it doesn't return anything. Okay. So these are all working nicely. We can get rid of those, right? We know what this is doing now. Maybe keep some empty lines just to make things a little, give them some space to breathe, right? But now we want to call it multiple times, right? Now things are going to get interesting and start using our cooldown thing. So, and we're probably going to want some kind of fancy thing for when this reverts, but I'm just going to say reverts when a user calls tries to claim 2 prizes, right? Okay. And we can even just call this from with the owner twice, right? And I feel like just this should be enough. And then we could at least see it revert, probably. Okay. I honestly forget this every time. Async. Okay, so we got a thing here, right? And this is reverting with our message already claimed price today. So that's good. In here, I thought they had some kind of should revert. Okay. Truffle Assertions, I think was the library. Okay, and if I just search for revert, there's a link here asserting reverts. And okay, they're just making a directory, setting up a project. They have their contract. Okay, so we want to do truffle assertions, right? Save dev, I think, is dash D, capital D. And so then we bring it in like this. Truffle assert equals require truffle assertions. So put that in my test file here. And how do we use this? Reverts. Okay, so we say await truffle assert reverts, then the function call that we want to revert, and the thing we're expecting it to revert with, right? Our message there. Okay, so I'm going to call this first function. That should be fine. Then when I call it the second time, that's when it's going to revert. And I could just come back here and say, if this was the error that I'm getting, this is also, right, the message that I hard coded into here. Okay. So Oops. Test. And interesting. Okay. So that did not actually work. I think the await here is maybe messing things up. Okay. Because this function wants this to be a promise, and then it handles that. And by awaiting that, then it actually tries to run it, and you run into the problem. And it doesn't actually get caught by this reverse function. So that's cool. We can just make sure that it fails when it should fail, right? It returns exactly that address or string. Okay, so it expected it to fail with this string, but it failed with this string, right? So that's a nice error because it tells you exactly this is the thing that we were expecting. This is the thing that came out. And we can see, you have to really look close, but you can see this one is missing they're not the same string, right? Okay. So now let's try to make a test where the user can call it a second time and it works, right? So it's a day later. User can claim another prize after 1 day, right? Something like that. So this is still kind of our setup, right? We call it once. We're setting the cooldown. That's starting, triggering the cooldown. Now let's go back to our crypto zombies here, right? And they're telling us this is the to do. I'm just gonna show me the answer, and you can just copy all this and paste it in here. Sorry guys, I'm teaching you to cheat at crypto zombies. Oh, I didn't want to hide this thing. Hide this victory thing. Okay. Yeah. See, the point is that you actually learn from it, and that's what I like about crypto zombies is that you could go through cheating and just copy and pasting, and you still actually learn from it because it is just broken down in a nice way that is succinctly like covers a lot of the basic things of Solidity. So that's cool. Um, and so we wanted to, so we have this time dot increase time, and they're making a helper function here called time. And I like that. I like that a lot, actually. So let's do that. So in tests helpers, right? That's pretty good because it can differentiate between our actual tests and just our helper files. And these are helpers specifically for testing, right? We're never going to need to increase time in our actual Solidity code. I don't think you can even do that, right? It would be pretty bad if we could. But they're taking 1 days and converting it to this 24 hours, and then, yeah, interesting. So you pass a object, duration object, it looks like, into this. And then it calls EVM increased time. This is like a very low level JSON RPC way of calling to Web3 or calling through Web3 to your running blockchain, right? But basically converts this to seconds, the duration. That's what you actually send to it as the increased time argument. And then we mine a new block, right? And you need to mine a new block so that the now value changes, right? Because you could continue the time and if the two transactions get mined in the same block, then they both have the same now times, right? So you kind of want to make our first function call. Where is it? I'm trying to get back to the test here. Right, so we make our first function call, then we let the time go by, mine a new block, and now we do another function call, and things should be fine, okay? So, oh man, my thumb hurts, man. I really need to go back to this ergonomic mouse that I have. I don't know. Okay, so they're saying await increase, time dot increase, time duration here. So I'm gonna do this in my test here. And I'm sure they're importing this somehow, right? So they're just saying time equals require helpers dot time. Okay, and so in our time here, we're exporting this. So we're exporting this as an object. This object has the increase function and the duration constant on it. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this with the tests on the right and the solidity function on the left here. And we can bring in this helpers file that we just created here. And that should be the right path to it, right? We're in cooldown, and then we go to helpers and times here. Okay. Close. Okay. Okay, so we increase the time one day. Then I guess we should be able to just call this again with the same user. And now we want to do our assert, right? So we basically want to assert that the number of prizes for that user is 2. So let's copy this and call it owner prize count. Guess that makes sense. And then we want to do an expect. So we can bring this down and change this to 2. So we're expecting that to be 2. And right, people will tell you, hey, MEV, you know, the miners are gonna mess with this. It's gonna be crazy and all these things. But honestly, like the time on the block, you know, if it's way off, the miners are going to reject it, right? So it's only gonna be maybe 12 seconds, 15 seconds off, which like if someone calls it 15 seconds before the day ends or the cooldown ends, it's like, okay, not that big of a deal to me, honestly. But so send async is not a function. Interesting. Web3 current provider. So in this time, we want to do like maybe truffle send async. Is there any way? Yeah, And look, the first thing that comes up is the error that we're seeing. Web3 current provider send async is not functional. Okay. I faced this issue. Yes, I'm facing this issue too. So they're saying it's deprecated and replaced with .send. Okay. Plus this guy too, because I like that answer, assuming that it works. And it's interesting that they have send here and send async up here. Maybe send. I can't really drill into this here, but let's try this. We might need to add 08 to the bottom send. Callback is not a function. Okay, gonna take back my upload of this. Just signature example. Okay, not sure what this is. Okay, yep, this is what we're trying to do here. In Truffle 5, manipulate time with EVM increase time. So they keep saying maybe we don't want to await anything. Everyone is saying that like this should just work with send, but callback is not a function. I'm just gonna comment here, guys. And I'm just gonna say what I'm seeing here. Changing send async to send gives me this error. And I thought this should come up as a nice, yeah, right, like code type of formatting. And actually, this guy is doing it a little bit differently. So let's just copy his code. I think, yeah, we want to do this. That's what we had, and this is what he has. Am I missing a closing thing here? Comma expected? Oh, okay. Add seconds is not defined. Okay. Add seconds. Okay, so that's the parameter they're getting for how much to increase the time. And We're saying duration. Okay, so then the answer was basically you send instead of send async. It didn't say anything about awaiting these functions. I guess this guy is using a callback here when we weren't before. Okay, so this one is still using send async. Okay, so the deal is that this send is not a promise. I guess they just got rid of the promises altogether with send, and this takes a callback. So in this callback, I think, right, Amal was showing us the promisify that you could use, but I'm fine with the callback, honestly. So we increase our time, we do our mine, right? We don't need any of this stuff. So this is our increase. And honestly, we could even go back to crypto zombies and be like, hey, you guys should make your code like this because this is what actually works now, right? They're using a thing that was actually existed, but now is deprecated. And it's just like been so long that it actually is just totally gone now. It's not like deprecated and a warning, it's an actual error. But anyway, so another thing I wanted to do is just check, right? So this is our test here, right? And it's passing, and it's actually doing that, claiming the prize once, increasing the time by 1 day, and uh, claiming another prize, and then the count is 2, right? If I check this as 1, you might say, "Are you sure the count for this user is not 1, the number of prizes?" But the tests don't lie, right? And that's the nice thing about the test. People can be mistaken, and they get tired, they take a long time to look at all these things and check them, but the tests are just always just there ready to go. They're like Ken here with the opening up Zoom calls and hanging out. Okay, so this one is, we can even go crazy and do a third. It can claim 3 prizes over 3 days. Yeah, basically that. A user can claim 3 prizes over 3 days. Okay, so we're going to do the first one, increase it by 1 day. Do the second one, increase it by a day. Do a third one. We could even tighten these up a little bit, get rid of it's just like, how do you even read this, Maybe we could do it like this. And do our third one. Then we get the price count. Maybe we can delete this space, delete the last space, and we're good like that. Okay. This one should fail and say the prices are now 3. Okay, which they do. So that's 3. That's good. And another one I want to say is let's wait a full day before claiming another prize. Okay. So I wanted to say like increase the time to like just 1 minute before a full day, you know, or even 1 second before a full day. So I can say like seconds in one day. Okay, so there's this many seconds in one day. So I'm just going to set this to a constant maybe here. Seconds in one day, which is that many. Okay. And okay, I'm going to do an async function. And I'm going to bring these down here, right? We can call the claim price. Then we're going to increase it by seconds. And we're going to say seconds in one day minus one. Okay, so it's just 1 second before a full day. You know, I mean, you might as well just give the people the prize, but no, we want to stick to the rules that we defined here in our contract, right? Because that's the only laws in blockchain, or just whatever you code it to be. And we coded it to be 1 days here. So we gotta wait 1 full days, not 1 days minus a second. And let's see if we can, yeah, so this, it should revert with this same message here. And it does. I can say, we can say even, look, this is an interesting thing to do now. We can say, let's wait 1 more second, increase it by 1 second, and then we can call claim price again. Get the price count and expect it to be 2, right? We got it the first time, it reverted once, then we called it again and it worked, and we want it to be 2 overall. Wow. So beautiful, guys. Like, isn't this so nice to have all these green checks along with your code? So now we can come in here, and if we want to do some refactoring, right, we don't need this, so let's just get rid of it. This looks okay to me. Can only be called once per day is, I mean, I guess that's kind of obvious with the is ready thing, but not necessarily. We could delete some of these extra lines. Yeah, I think that's pretty much as clean as it's gonna get. The foo bar is kind of pointless, but we do have a test that's checking that, so I guess we need to have it up here. And man, it just makes me want to cry sometimes. It's just so beautiful. Let's see. Sorry, I'm checking out in the chat. Anybody have any questions? You can unmute or ask in the chat. But Neopets, man, someone's talking about Neopets. Throwback. Will will want some gem coins. So where did I have that open? I opened a lot of browsers. Maybe this one? No. Ah, sorry, Will. I lost that tab. The thing open. We can, in theory, pull that back up, right? Especially now that it's in my MetaMask here. Should be able to see the contract address. View and explore. Yeah. I did want to do like the Solidity coverage just to check. Right, so we can install Solidity coverage here. Then in your Truffle config, you want to add plugin Solidity coverage. Which we can do right here. You basically scroll to the bottom. I don't have any plugins in here now, so we can just add this at the bottom here. Seems like a good spot. And there's a trailing comma here, so that's all good. So now if I say Truffle run coverage, okay. And it's green hundreds. Green hundreds across the board, right? Doesn't necessarily tell us that we have good assertions, but we know we have good assertions because we did it together and we're expecting the right things. Cool. Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to add all these things. Cooldowner. Remember, we can add emojis here. So I'm going to add this cool surfboard guy. You know, Black Lives Matter. Let's make him, I don't know, just because we can. And, oh, I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. Okay, so yeah, it works. That's, I don't know if you guys, how are you feeling? Is that enough? Enough Solidity TDD for 1 week? Are you are you stunned?
Well, we can edit it later today or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming out. We have all our code here. I forget when we stopped recording, but we got the code coverage. Everything's 100%. And we have good assertions here. We have our cooldowner and everything's here in the repository if you wanted to check it out and clone it and run it yourself. So I guess that's all for today. You know, definitely check us out. Come to the next meetup. Find us on meetup.com. Join our Slack and Discord and come hang out, ask questions, share your cool projects, and yeah, definitely looking to meet more people and get more people into the crypto world, especially when you're developing stuff, it's just like you can create these things from nothing and it's awesome. So